Here are some of my Marvel Legends collection, and I just want to share with you guys my container of Toybiz Spider-Man figures. When I first started collecting, I was kind of obsessed with trying to find every Spider-Man Classics figure, but I realized that it's almost an impossible task to do so. And even if it is possible, it would really be an expensive one. So, this is what I managed to amass so far. So, yeah, first off, this is actually a bootleg of the Super-poseable Spidey. I'll share with you guys more about it, but you can see that the blue is really off. It's kind of greyish. And the web lines on the shoulder isn't really painted that well. Same goes for the web lines on this portion here. Here's the Toybiz Armored Spider. It's really good that we got the new one because this old one is really terrible. You can see the points of articulation is not really that good. Single hinge knee joint. The figure has the diaper crotch. And the gimmick hands. The sculpt is actually quite decent, but yeah, overall, it's really not a great figure. Really great that we got the new one. Here's Hasbro's early attempt of Ben Reilly Spidey. Quite a decent figure actually, except that he's kind of on the smaller side. When you compare it with the recent retro Spidey, the old Ben Reilly Spidey really looked kind of scrawny. Both the newer Ben Reilly figures are better than this one. However, the web shooters on this one does look good. Here are more Super-poseable Spideys. This is number 1, I guess. Number 2. And yeah, that's it actually. I only have 2 Super-poseable Spideys. And of course, this body mold has been reused on the Fearsome Foes Spidey. The main difference being the shade of blue and the head sculpt. Here is Hasbro's re-release of the Super-poseable Spidey, having it in black and red instead of blue and red. The head sculpt is exactly the same. And here's a bootleg version of the red and black Spidey. The bootleg has the elbow joint in red, unlike the original which has it in black. And also it's really loose. But then again, sometimes even the original might be that loose. The web lines on the shoulder is not painted and the plastic is really thin. You can see the joints on the inside of the shoulder. And here's one more Spidey that I have on the Super-poseable body. I got this from another collector and I'm not really sure where the head is from. It's on the Super-poseable body, but the hands has the curved finger like the Sinister 6 Spidey, unlike the original which has the fingers straight instead of bent like this one. So I'm really not sure this is from which version. If any of you know, you can share it with me. And yeah, the leg has also broken. I'll need to fix this with a screw or something. And the head sculpt is different. You can see the eyes on this one is kind of popping out a bit. The Super-poseable Spidey has it kind of flat on the surface. So yeah, here are the Spideys that I have that are on the Super-poseable body mold. And that's the bootleg of the red and black at the back. And this one is the earlier one that I shared with you. And recently, I got another Super-poseable bootleg Spidey from AliExpress. So I'll do a comparison of this very soon. Here is the black costume Spidey by Toybiz and a re-release done by Hasbro in the Spider-Man Origins series, which is exactly the same as the Toybiz version, except that this Toybiz version has the paintwork in white for the Spider logo, but the re-release by Hasbro has it in silver. Here is the first appearance Spider-Man from the Sentinel series. Hasbro definitely need to redo this first appearance Spidey figure. This one has the diaper crotch and the cloth webbing, which is literally like a cape. Here's the Restless Spidey that I recently did a video on, whereby the clothes are really crumbling. You can check out the video. Not really a great figure, but one of the figures that has the Tobey Maguire head. But then again, the head sculpt isn't really that great. And talking about the Tobey Maguire figures, here are some of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yup, that's it. I have these 4 different versions. Here are the 5 Tobey Spidey figures that I have, and all 5 of them are different. These 2 are actually different. You can see this one only has the ab crunch, and this one has the ab crunch and also the mid-torso joint. The logo at the back of the figure is also different. I think this one is the original Pizza Spidey, and here is the alternate head. And the Tobey head sculpt on the Pizza Spidey is better than the one on the Wrestler Spidey. I'm really not sure which are the 3 versions of this Spidey. I think this one is this one is this, and this one is this. Do share it in the comments below if I got them right. And anyways, for these 3 figures, I got them for like $10 back then because these figures aren't really sought after back then. The Pizza Spidey, however, was expensive even back then. And of course, I really hope Hasbro redo these Tobey Maguire Spidey figures. Here's how it looks like with the masked head. These 3 really look similar, and I really wonder why Toybiz released them in grey and red instead of blue and red. And I think these 2 has the same body mold. At the back is the same spider logo, and you can see the joints on the torso are all the same. The only difference is the hands. This one has the individually articulated fingers. This one has the web shooting fingers. Oh, there's actually another Super-poseable Spidey. I think this one is another bootleg that I got. Here is the earlier version that I took out. And yeah, this is another KO that I got. The grey paintwork is the same. And here is actually another Super-poseable Spidey, red and black version. This is original. Yeah, so I actually have 2 of these as well. Here is the SDCC exclusive Spider-Man with the alternate Stanley appearance. I think this is one of the figures that never really dropped in value. This figure was really expensive a few years back, but I think by now it should have reduced a bit in price, but I think still quite pricey, although not as expensive as it once was back then. The figure had the same body mold as the first appearance Spidey from the Sentinel wave. Here is this Spidey. I think this figure is commonly mistaken to be the House of M Spidey because the design of it is kind of similar, but it's actually slightly different. Toybiz Spider-Man Classics actually did the House of M Spidey, but this is the one. This figure has the diaper crotch and the oversized shoulder muscles. It also has the holes for the gimmick function. It is supposed to throw the accessories that can be attached over here and, you know, have this movement. So the waist swivel is not really a swivel joint, but a gimmick function. The sculpt on it is decent. It really looks like Spidey on steroids. Here's another Toybiz Spider-Man body mold that was used quite a few times. I think this Spidey is from this figure, and I used to have a black and red version of this as well. Kind of a decent body mold, really slim and slender, just like the Super-poseable Spidey. Here's another Spidey that I have. I actually did a head swap. This is actually not the original head because the original head is really small and unproportionate to the body size. So that's actually a head from the first appearance Spidey. And I don't really like the proportions of this figure, although I think this figure was quite pricey back then as well. The gap at the crotch is kind of wide. It doesn't have an ab crunch. And yeah, not really a great body mold in my opinion. But of course the sculpt on it is quite good. Here's a concept appearance of Spider-Man. I think it does look kind of interesting. And thankfully, the proportions of this figure is actually quite good. The paintwork on it is also quite decent. You can see the chrome red on most of the parts. And also the chrome blue on the torso. And that head sculpt. Maybe that's where this head is from. You can see the eyes protruding out. Unlike the original Super-poseable Spidey head, which doesn't have it protruding out like this. Here's the back of the figure. And I think there is 2 versions of this. One is a single pack, the other one is a 2-pack. But the accessories that the figure comes with is the same. Here is the leg of that super-poseable Spidey. Hey, I actually have another Tobey Spidey. Oh, this time around, this is the magnetic version. I wonder if Hasbro will eventually release a classic Spider-Man with alternate magnetic hands and feet. Here is another first appearance Spidey, missing the cape. I should let go of this. Yeah, here is Snapshot Spidey. And Sinister 6 Spidey, the two steroid Spidey brothers, which are really sought after. I think even till now, these two are quite pricey. And I think despite all the recent Spidey figures, and even though the proportions of this figure is really kind of off in my opinion, they are still great figures, and I definitely wouldn't let these two go. This head sculpt really look John Romita Jr. And the Snapshot head sculpt also looks good. Both of these are really awesome Spidey figures. Next are these three Spider-Man Classics figures, the prelude to Marvel Legends, or we can say the OGs of Marvel Legends. The sculpt is definitely outdated, but I'm definitely keeping these three just for nostalgic sake, or this is like the very first versions of Spideys and I'll just keep them. And I guess if I were to put myself in the early 2000s, these figures would really look good back then. Here's the cape of the Spidey 2099. Outdated but still awesome. I'm keeping these three. It's fine. Whew. And finally, the last three. The OG Cyborg Spidey. I think this is definitely one of the best figures in the Spider-Man Classics series. And I actually got this one at a really decent price. I think around 60 USD. MOC in packaging, and then a few years back I go and open it up, and I really regret that decision because just a while later I managed to find this one loose. And after that I managed to come across this blue version, which is kind of even harder to find than the grey version, but the shoulder pads were missing. So what I did was I had to sacrifice the shoulder pads on this one for a local customizer to sculpt, and yeah, so now I have a custom one for this one and the original one to put it back. But I have not done so after all this while. I still have those shoulder pads somewhere. This is actually the scuba diving Spidey or something. But yeah, they are exactly the same body mold. I mean, look at that. It's really, really awesome. Concept appearance, but one of the best Spidey figures. And one downside about it is that it's really on the smaller side. But it is still an awesome figure nonetheless. So again, all the Spideys are out, and let's take a look at all of it again. Here are the only three figures that I have from the OG Spider-Man Classics, the precursor to Marvel Legends. The two all-time favorites, Sinister 6 Spidey and Snapshot Spidey, or what I'd like to call them, the steroid Spidey bros. These are two concept appearances. The first version of Armored Spider, which is really ugh. And this one is actually by Hasbro, but yeah, it is in my Toybiz box. The first version of Ben Reilly. Here's the first appearance Spidey from the Sentinel Wave. Another one that I have without the web cape. The SDCC Spidey with the alternate Stanley parts, which has the same body mold as the first appearance Spidey. And this Spidey over here that I changed the head to the first appearance head. This classic costume Spider-Man body mold, which has been reused quite a few times. And these two black costume Spideys, which actually is one of my favorite black costume Spidey figures. This is a re-release done by Hasbro of the Toybiz Spider-Man Classics black costume Spidey. These 6 Tobey Maguire Spideys that I have, this 4 grey and red version is actually all different versions of each other. Here's the OG Pizza Spidey, Magnetic Spidey, and there is a slight difference between these two as well, like I mentioned earlier. Here's the red and blue version. I actually like this one. The blue on it is really good. And here's the Restless Spidey, whereby the costume on it has already crumbled on this figure that I have. Here are the spider logos at the back. It's actually kind of different. And here are all the figures on the Super-poseable body mold. These two are the OG Super-poseable Spideys. These are the red and black repaints done by early Hasbro. Fearsome Foes Spideys missing the web cloth. And like I said earlier, I need you guys to help me to identify this one because I really don't know which version this is. The shade of blue is really similar to the Fearsome Foes, but the hands are different. You can see it has curved fingers, and the head sculpt is different like I mentioned because of the sculpted eyes. And here are the 4 bootleg super-poseable Spideys that I have. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe if you like my content, and do share with me if you have any of these Spidey figures as well. And check out my other videos over here.